red light. Alright.
And it's straight on my ear.
Archery. I'm just going to go through the basics here. I'm going to go through basic archery form. Need to hold the camera straight there, Jack, and make sure that I'm in the picture. That's the one. So, basic archery form, pretty much you need to get everything in a straight line. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can stand. You can stand heel to heel, or you can adopt, take that. Adopt a more open fighter stance, which I prefer. So that's heel to toe on the line. Oi, oi, yeah, take that. Go find your arrow, bro. Go find your arrow. Alright, heel to toe fighter stance. So now that we're in a straight line to the target, the other thing is how you hold your bow. You need to grip that bow the same way each time. Now if it's a long bow, hey Charlie, so are you still recording me?
Yeah.
Heel and hand down. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I need to get the tripod. Alrighty, first of all I'll cover gripping the bow. I'll go through long bows and then I'll do recurves at a later stage. So long bow, you want to have the heel down, so that's heel down on the bow as opposed to heel up. Heel down and straight into the grip of your hand. What I do is I just pull it right into the grip of my hand, get a good grip and then hold it tight. You kind of want to throttle the long bow. You want to have a good firm hold on it, kind of like choking the chicken, because you don't want it to jump around in your hand. Long bows are usually very light. If you don't have a firm grip on the bow, it can jump, torquing the arrow and throwing it off. Right, next thing I'm going to cover is the draw. 3 ways to draw. First way is the Fred Bear style, where you point your bow, pull straight back, and the other 2 are swing draws. So swing draw from the bottom, which is the way I prefer, bringing back on that last 15 centimeters, or you can draw from the top, pulling down like that. Now the reason I prefer the swing draw from the bottom, because as you draw, there's a straight line coming up to your target, and this generally ensures that you'll be on the target vertically, not always horizontally, but your arrow will hit somewhere on that vertical plane. So straight away that kind of eliminates some of the stuff that makes arrows go haywire. Okay, canting the bow. You also want to cant the bow. So if it's straight up and down when you're shooting off the shelf, it's a very unnatural position. It doesn't go with the natural position your body is. So if you close your eyes and just bring the bow up, that'll give you a natural cant line. Now, when you cant the bow, it's really important that you also cant your head over as well. It's no use pulling the bow back if your head's still straight up and down. You want to cant the bow, tip your head down so your head's on the same angle before you release. Now this arm, this pulling arm there, and the pushing arm are very, very important. If they're not in line, you're not going to be consistent. So very important that you focus on drawing with your back muscles, and that you're pushing back with this elbow and pushing forward with that hand. It's a constant push and pull motion. Now if you do it correctly, this arm here should be in line. It should all be fairly straight. What you want to avoid is having that arm really high, so pulling back and having a high draw arm. What that does is it puts unnatural pressure on the string, and that can also affect your release. So straight line, arm straight back, hand pointed straight forward, focusing on the target, and then just letting that arrow slide off your fingers. And I'm just going to really quickly work through a release. You want a really good, smooth release. It's almost like you're pulling back and then just relaxing those fingers and letting that string slide off your hand. So to start off with, how are you going to grip your bow? There's several different ways you can grip it. With the string, I'll turn around this way, you can grip it with the string right up in the hooks of your fingers, or you can use the very tips, or you can go somewhere in between, halfway from the tips and that first joint there. I prefer hit the first joint and then come slightly back, so I'm just gripping the string with those 3 fingers. You want a good firm hook while keeping your hand relaxed. If your hand's very tight, if you're struggling to hold that string, you won't get a smooth release. You'll notice when you first start shooting, it's going to be very hard to grip that string, and the more you shoot, the more your hand will strengthen up and get used to holding it, and the more you can relax it and hook that string. So the key to a good release is having a good anchor, so having that middle finger right on the corner of your mouth. There's a few different ways you can anchor. You can anchor 3 fingers below the string, below your chin. You can have 1 finger above, 2 below. You can anchor with that top finger, corner of your mouth. You can anchor bottom finger, corner of your mouth. I prefer the middle finger, right on the corner. A lot of books I've researched, a lot of people I've talked to also preferred this method. It just makes for a more consistent release. So, good anchor, draw it back, focus on the target. When you come to full draw, just release. Whenever your mind tells you to release, release. Some people hold for a couple of seconds, some people draw back, touch and release automatically. It's completely up to you, and the more you shoot, the more your subconscious will take over and the less you will think about this release. So just focus on a really good anchor point and letting that string slide off your fingers, and everything else will just kind of follow. So I'm just going to go through the draw and the release here for you. Easy peasy. The main thing with the release is that you ideally want a second anchor point. Not everyone has a second anchor point. Tim Wells, for example, he just lets loose and plucks the string into the air, and that guy's a deadly shot. So whatever works for you guys, just go with what you prefer. The majority of people I've spoken to and the majority of the books that I've read recommend a second anchor point. So whether that be on your cheek, touching your ear, touching your shoulder, that second anchor point just guarantees a consistent release every time you shoot. Now what I like to do, I'll pull back and I'll try to anchor every time touching my face again. So I'll pull back, come to full draw and touch my face after the shot. And the main thing is, if you're really consistent with that second anchor point, your arrow's going to fly the same way, hit the same point on the target every time. And you will eventually start to get better and better groups the more that you shoot. To get super accurate, what you really want to do, folks, is focus. Focus on that point of the target you're aiming for, and try not to think about anything else. If you're focusing on that point on the target and everything else is consistent, you are going to start grouping those arrows rather nicely. And practice is the key here. The more you practice, the more accurate you will get. Practice, 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 practice. Aim for consistency, and those arrows are going to start grouping really nicely for you. As you can see there, change the angle of the camera there. Oh, that's a fairly good group.